A rule that took effect overnight and why it matters. Imagine waking up this morning expecting your Social Security deposit to arrive just like it has for years, only to open your bank account and see nothing there. No explanation, no warning, just silence. Then imagine calling the Social Security office and being told your benefits were suspended because of a new rule you never even realized had taken effect. That is not speculation. That is happening to real seniors right now. As of today, the Social Security Administration has officially implemented a major procedural overhaul. This is not a proposal. It is not pending legislation. It is active policy, and it changes how your eligibility is verified, how you are notified, and how closely your financial life is monitored. For millions of retirees, this represents one of the most significant operational shifts in over a decade. Under the new system, a single missed email, a delayed response, or an unreported life change can now trigger an immediate suspension of benefits. That means the responsibility to protect your monthly income has increased, starting today. In the next few minutes, we will break down exactly what changed, who faces the greatest risk, and what steps you must take right now to safeguard the benefits you worked a lifetime to earn. Before we go further, tell me in the comments, were you aware this rule was already in effect, or is this the first time you're hearing about it? From passive system to active enforcement, for decades, Social Security operated on a relatively stable structure. Once you were approved for benefits, the system largely relied on self-reporting. If your income changed, if you remarried, if you moved, you were expected to inform the SSA. Otherwise, unless something obvious triggered a review, your monthly payments continued without much interruption. That system is now over. Beginning today, the Social Security Administration has shifted from a passive model to an active enforcement model. Instead of waiting for problems to surface, the agency is now proactively verifying eligibility on a continuous basis. According to SSA officials, the purpose is to reduce improper payments, which total billions of dollars annually. Payments made to individuals whose circumstances changed. Payments sent in amounts that no longer reflect eligibility. In some cases, even payments that continued after a beneficiary passed away. But here's what that means for you. Eligibility is no longer something you prove once at the beginning of retirement. It is now something you must prove repeatedly, year after year. The burden of vigilance has shifted. In the next segment, we'll examine the first and most sweeping change: mandatory annual verification for nearly every beneficiary over the age of 62. Mandatory annual verification, a new yearly requirement. The first major pillar of this new rule is mandatory annual verification, and it directly affects nearly every beneficiary aged 62 and older. Under this new system, Social Security recipients will now be required to confirm their eligibility every single year. This is no longer a one-time approval followed by routine payments. It is an ongoing compliance process. Once per year, you will receive a formal verification notice from the SSA. That notice will require you to confirm key details about your situation. This may include your total income from all sources, your marital status, your living arrangements, and in certain cases, information about assets or financial accounts. This is not optional paperwork. It is not a courtesy update. It is mandatory. And here is the critical part. When that notice is issued, you will have 30 days to respond. If you fail to submit the requested information within that window, the SSA now has the authority to suspend your benefits until you comply. There is no automatic grace period. There is no assumption that you simply missed the message. Under this new rule, silence equals non-compliance. In the next segment, we'll examine how those verification notices will be delivered and why the communication shift may create even greater risk for seniors. The shift to digital-first communication. The second major change may be even more disruptive than annual verification. For decades, most official Social Security notices arrived in paper envelopes delivered to your mailbox. That familiar system, open the letter, read the instructions, respond if necessary, is now largely being replaced. Under the new rule, the SSA is moving to what it calls an electronic-first communication model. For the majority of beneficiaries, that means critical notices, including those mandatory annual verification requests, will now be delivered electronically. Most often, this will happen through email alerts or secure messages inside your My Social Security online account. And here's the part that raises serious concern. The moment the SSA sends that electronic notice, you are considered officially notified. The 30-day countdown begins immediately, whether you saw the message or not. If the email goes to an old address, lands in a spam folder, or sits unopened in an inbox you rarely check, the deadline still stands. Only a limited group is automatically exempt from this digital mandate. Beneficiaries aged 75 and older, individuals who can prove they lack internet access, and those with qualifying disability accommodations. Everyone else must adapt. In the next segment, we'll examine the third and most powerful change: expanded data monitoring and cross-agency tracking. Expanded data matching, continuous financial monitoring. The third pillar of this new system operates quietly behind the scenes, but it may be the most powerful change of all. Beginning today, the Social Security Administration has significantly expanded its data matching capabilities. In the past, the system relied heavily on what beneficiaries voluntarily reported. If you started working again, if you remarried, if your income changed, you were expected to inform the SSA. Now, the agency no longer waits. Under the new rule, Social Security can automatically cross-check your information with data from the Internal Revenue Service, state tax agencies, unemployment systems, the Department of Veterans Affairs, state vital records, financial institutions, and even credit reporting databases. In practical terms, that means the government may detect changes in your financial life before you ever report them. If the system identifies a discrepancy, income that appears higher than expected, a marital status update, a new address, a significant financial transaction, it can trigger a review. And once flagged, the burden shifts to you to explain or correct the record. If the response is delayed or insufficient, benefits can be reduced, suspended, or classified as overpayments requiring repayment. In the next segment, we'll examine which groups of seniors are most vulnerable under this intensified monitoring system. The seniors most at risk under the new system. While this rule technically applies to nearly every Social Security beneficiary, the impact will not be evenly distributed. Some groups face significantly higher exposure under the new verification and monitoring framework. The first group at heightened risk is working retirees, particularly those who claimed benefits before reaching full retirement age. Under existing law, early claimants are subject to annual earnings limits. If they exceed those limits, part of their benefit can be withheld. That rule hasn't changed. What has changed is enforcement speed. In the past, excess earnings were often discovered after annual tax filings. Adjustments came later, sometimes months after income was earned. Now, with real-time data matching, the SSA can detect earnings much faster. That means benefits may be reduced or suspended mid-year instead of reconciled retroactively. The second vulnerable group includes widows and widowers receiving survivor benefits. Remarriage before a certain age can affect eligibility. With expanded access to state marriage records, the SSA may now detect remarriages almost immediately, leaving little margin for reporting delays. And finally, supplemental security income recipients face strict income and asset limits. Even small financial changes can trigger review. In the next segment, we'll examine real-world examples already emerging under this new system. Real stories. How suspensions are already happening. To understand how serious this shift is, it helps to look at what's already unfolding. Across the country, seniors are encountering unexpected interruptions under the new rule. Consider a 68-year-old retiree who has received her Social Security deposit like clockwork for years. One morning, the deposit doesn't appear. After hours on hold, she learns an annual verification notice was sent electronically to an old email address she rarely checks. Because she did not respond within 30 days, her benefits were automatically suspended. Now she faces weeks of reinstatement paperwork, with bills still due. Or think about a 64-year-old man who claimed early retirement but continues working part-time. Under the previous system, he expected any earnings adjustment to be handled after tax season. Instead, the SSA's new data matching flagged his quarterly income in real time. His benefits were paused immediately, even though part of the reported amount included a one-time payment he believes should not count toward the limit. Then there's the 72-year-old widow who remarried last year and believed she properly notified Social Security. Under the new system, a discrepancy between state records and SSA files triggered an overpayment notice demanding repayment of thousands of dollars. These are not isolated incidents. They are the predictable result of automation replacing discretion. In the next segment, we'll outline the specific steps every beneficiary should take right now to avoid becoming the next case. The 6 immediate steps to protect your benefits. If you are receiving Social Security right now or plan to apply soon, the time to act is not later. It is today. The first and most urgent step is to create or update your My Social Security online account. This portal has now become the central hub for nearly all official communication. If you already have an account, log in immediately and confirm that every detail is accurate. Pay special attention to your email address. Under the new Electronic First system, that email is your lifeline. It must be one you actively monitor. If you rarely check your current address, consider creating a dedicated email account used only for Social Security and financial matters. Second, verify your mailing address and phone number. Outdated contact information increases the risk of missed notices. Third, begin organizing your documents. Keep tax returns, pay stubs, pension statements, bank records, and any paperwork tied to your eligibility in one accessible place. When a verification request arrives, speed matters. Fourth, set a monthly reminder to log into your SSA account proactively. Fifth, if you are working while receiving benefits, maintain detailed earnings records. And sixth, report life changes immediately. Marriage, divorce, relocation, employment shifts through your online account, and keep confirmation. In the next segment, we'll examine the backlash this rule generated and why legal challenges ultimately failed to stop it. The backlash: why so many opposed the rule. A change this sweeping did not take effect quietly. During the public comment period, tens of thousands of individuals and advocacy groups voiced strong objections. Senior organizations warned that the new system places an unfair burden on older Americans, especially those who are not comfortable with technology. Groups like AARP argued that shifting critical communication to email could leave millions at risk. Many retirees still rely on traditional mail. Some do not regularly check email. Others struggle with passwords, online logins, or navigating digital portals. Under a strict 30-day deadline, even small technical challenges could lead to suspended benefits. Disability advocates also raised concerns. What happens if a beneficiary is hospitalized? What if cognitive limitations make fast responses difficult? Critics argued that the rule does not adequately account for real-life circumstances. Privacy organizations focused on the expanded data matching system. They questioned whether giving the SSA broad access to financial records, credit data, and third-party databases increases the risk of errors or data breaches. Automated systems, they warned, may flag innocent transactions and shift the burden onto seniors to prove nothing is wrong. Despite these objections, the SSA defended the changes as necessary to prevent billions in improper payments. In the next segment, we'll explain why federal courts allowed the rule to move forward and what that means for beneficiaries today. Why the courts allowed the rule to stand after intense public opposition. Several legal challenges were filed in an attempt to block or delay this new Social Security rule. Advocacy groups argued that the changes were too burdensome, too aggressive, and potentially harmful to vulnerable seniors. But in the end, federal courts allowed the rule to move forward. Why? The central legal reasoning was administrative authority. Courts determined that the Social Security Administration has broad discretion to establish procedures for verifying eligibility and managing benefit payments. As long as beneficiaries retain due process rights, including the ability to appeal suspensions or reductions, the agency is permitted to modernize and tighten enforcement mechanisms. In other words, the courts did not rule that the policy was ideal. They ruled that it was legally permissible. Judges acknowledged concerns raised by senior advocates and privacy groups. However, they concluded that preventing improper payments and protecting taxpayer funds falls squarely within the SSA's mandate. That decision means the rule is not temporary. It is not paused. It is active nationwide. For beneficiaries, that shifts the focus away from debating the rule's fairness and toward adapting to its reality. In the next segment, we'll break down your legal rights, because even under this stricter system, you are not without protection. Your right to appeal. You are not powerless. Even under this stricter and more automated system, one critical fact remains. You still have legal rights. If your Social Security benefits are reduced, suspended, or flagged because of annual verification, electronic notice issues, or data matching discrepancies, you are not required to simply accept that decision. The first level of protection is called a request for reconsideration. This allows a different SSA employee, someone who was not involved in the original decision, to review your case again. You can submit additional documentation, clarify misunderstandings, and challenge any incorrect data. If that reconsideration does not resolve the issue, you have the right to request a formal hearing before an administrative law judge. At that hearing, you can present evidence, explain your situation in detail, and respond directly to the SSA's claims, and if necessary, you can escalate further to the Social Security Appeals Council and even to federal court. You also have the right to representation. That means you can hire an attorney or work with a qualified non-attorney advocate who understands Social Security law. In the next segment, we'll talk about expedited hardship protections and what you can do if a suspension leaves you facing immediate financial crisis. Hardship protections. What if your income suddenly stops? One of the most frightening aspects of this new rule is the possibility of sudden suspension. For many retirees, Social Security is not supplemental income. It is the primary source of support. So, what happens if your payment is paused and you cannot afford to wait months for an appeal? There are hardship protections built into the system. If your benefits are suspended and you are facing serious financial difficulty, such as risk of eviction, utility shutoff, inability to purchase food, or lack of access to critical medication, you can request expedited processing of your case. This means asking the SSA to prioritize your review due to financial emergency. In certain circumstances, you may also request continued or interim benefits while your appeal is pending. Approval is not automatic, but the option exists, and many beneficiaries are unaware of it. The key is documentation. If you are facing hardship, gather proof immediately. Eviction notices, overdue utility bills, medical statements, pharmacy receipts, these documents strengthen your request. The most important takeaway is this: a suspension notice is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of a process. In the next segment, we'll step back and look at the bigger picture, why this shift reflects a larger transformation happening across federal benefit programs, a larger government shift toward automation. To fully understand what's happening inside Social Security, you have to zoom out. This new rule is not an isolated event. It is part of a much broader shift across federal agencies toward automation, digital communication, and aggressive fraud detection. Medicare is increasing data verification. Medicaid programs are tightening eligibility reviews. Veterans benefit systems are expanding cross-agency data sharing. Across the board, government programs are moving away from manual review and toward real-time monitoring. From an administrative perspective, the reasoning is straightforward. Automation reduces long-term errors and prevents improper payments. Computers can cross-check information in seconds that once took months to review manually. But efficiency comes with trade-offs. Automated systems do not recognize context. They do not understand that a senior may be caring for a sick spouse, traveling, hospitalized, or struggling with memory issues. They operate strictly by rule sets and data comparisons. Under the old model, many beneficiaries interacted with Social Security only occasionally. Under the new model, vigilance becomes ongoing. For organized retirees who are comfortable with technology and have simple financial situations, this shift may feel manageable. But for seniors with complex income sources, health challenges, or limited digital literacy, the risk of misunderstanding and delay increases significantly. In the next segment, we'll discuss the mindset every senior needs to adopt moving forward under this new environment. The new mindset: proactive, organized, and alert. Under this new Social Security environment, the most important shift is not just procedural, it's psychological. For years, many retirees operated under a simple assumption. Once approved, benefits would continue steadily unless something major happened. That mindset no longer works. The new system demands vigilance. You must now think of your Social Security benefits the way you think about your bank account or credit report. Something you monitor regularly, not something you assume is fine. Being proactive is no longer optional. It is protective. That means checking your online account at least once a month. It means reviewing your earnings if you're still working. It means reporting life changes immediately instead of waiting. It means opening and reading every electronic message, even if it looks routine. It also means keeping organized records, tax returns, pay stubs, pension letters, bank statements. So if a discrepancy arises, you can respond quickly and confidently. Most importantly, it means understanding that silence can now have consequences. This does not mean living in fear, it means living informed. In the final segment, we'll bring everything together and outline the key takeaways every senior should remember moving forward. The bottom line: protecting the benefits you earned. As we close, let's bring this into sharp focus. Starting today, Social Security operates differently. Annual verification is mandatory. Most critical notices arrive electronically. Financial and life changes are monitored through expanded data matching, and missed deadlines can now trigger immediate suspension. That is the reality. But here is the other reality: your benefits are still yours. They are earned, they are protected by law, and you still have rights. The difference is that protecting those benefits now requires active participation. You must monitor your online account. You must keep your contact information current. You must respond quickly to verification requests. You must report changes immediately and keep documentation. And if a mistake occurs, you must assert your right to appeal. This shift may feel overwhelming at first, but knowledge reduces fear, organization reduces risk, and awareness prevents unnecessary disruption. Social Security remains one of the most important financial lifelines in America. That has not changed. What has changed is the level of attention required to safeguard it. Stay informed, stay proactive, stay organized, and most importantly, stay in control of the income you worked your entire life to earn.